weekend, my friend, and I guess we'll see you Monday morning on the morning show. Thank you, brother. All right, folks, you guess what it is? It's Friday, finally a Friday. Let's see what the markets did today. Let's take a peek. They were weak. They bounced back just a little bit. The Dow is going to end up around 200 points lower on the day. We're going to look at S&P down about 20 or so, plus or minus. Nasdaq down 73, not a big number for Nasdaq. We jump over to some of the other things we talk about. Oil down to $1.45. There's some good news right there. Down $1.45. Look at that, $62 a barrel, approaching, about to break 62. That's on the downside. That's great news. Gold, always strong. Here's what happened this morning. This morning, the jobs number came out. The big Labor Department number, Bureau of Labor Statistics came out, showed 22,000 jobs created last month, far below what was expected. 75,000 were expected, came out 22,000. I will tell you, reporters were calling me all day saying, what do you think of this horrible number? And I will tell them, I'll tell you exactly what I told them. I've been doing this for the better part of 30 years, whether it's on TV or on Wall Street. The Bureau of Labor Statistics is one of the easiest places to fudge statistics. It's horrible science at best. It's political at worst. I don't trust any of the numbers that come out of the BLS. Not because it was bad and it was Trump's. I've never trusted them. Go back to my history at Fox. I've never trusted those numbers. They need a better way to compile the monthly jobs numbers. Right now, you're calling different services and asking how many people are employing or hiring and not hiring. It's really a moving target. It's terrible. So I don't put a lot of credence in it. Also, I will tell you, immediately, Kevin Hassett came out and said, we will expect a revision next month, which is a problem for me, folks. I'm going to be straight up with you. I told these reporters, as bad as it is the way we compile the numbers, even worse is trying to predict how they're going to fix the numbers, unless you know something that we don't know, which we'd all like to know because we have a lot of money on the line. A lot of us do. And you do too, believe me. If you're watching here and you don't have any money in the stock market, you got money on the line with the markets. Take a look at the crypto markets all over the board. Very strong early. Crypto, Bitcoin got up to 114,000 almost early this morning. It's going to settle in around 111,000. Ethereum had a good day, up $58. XRP was up and CRO was up. Crypto did very, very well today. All right. Also, this is a very important story. Trump may have cleaned up the streets of Washington, D.C., but this story is getting a little attention. We want to shed some light on it. A Saudi-linked arms dealer, Saudi. 19 Saudis flew planes into the World Trade Center. Let's not forget that. This arms dealer has been named in the Epstein files and has an anti-Trump past. Well, he's purchased a major U.S. hotel chain with one of those hotels, the Capitol Hilton. Capitol Hilton is where they do the White House press corps dinner every year, and it's very near the White House. Braemar Hotels is the parent company. They're being sold to Al Shams Investments Limited, which is owned by Wafiq Saeed. Mr. Saeed is a Syrian who left his country, 23 years old, went to the UK where he lives, and the purchase of this hotel chain, particularly the Capitol Hilton, I've been there dozens of times in DC, is cause for national security concern. That hotel right there is frequented by U.S. officials all the time, foreign dignitaries all the time. So do we now have anything to worry about? I don't know. Could this become a surveillance and influence hub under ownership tied to Saudi interests? Sale raises a lot of questions of how foreign billionaires with controversial pasts, political agendas, and high-risk associations can acquire sensitive U.S. assets without meaningful oversight. Not just a real estate deal, it's foreign influence at the doorstep of American power, and we must keep an eye on it. We will here at RAV, absolutely. All right, my first guest is frustrated with Mayor Brendan Johnson and Governor J.B. Pritzker for refusing to work with President Trump and his administration to make Chicago a safer place to live and to work. I'm happy to have Chicago Democratic Alderman Raymond Lopez with us. Good to have you, my friend. Raymond, I'm from Chicago, born and raised in Chicago. I've watched you. I was over at Fox for about 12 years. You're a very good spokesperson. I guess you lean left on the ballot, I guess, but you're a very logical person. Why is Chicago having such a hard time? You go from Lori Lightfoot, horrendous with crime and everything else going on, to Brandon Johnson, maybe equally as bad. Why did the Chicago people continue to elect people who are just not interested in keeping the safety of Chicagoans at heart?
You know, Chicagoans, Eric, have forgotten what it means to have a real mayor in charge of the city of Chicago. They've fallen for the okey doke twice now, with people giving the platitudes and speaking to the social justice warrior ethos that everyone wants and thinks that they need to aspire to, while at the same time forgetting that Chicago is a city of neighborhoods, as you know. Chicago is a city of working class, blue collar folks who have the grit within them to lift themselves up and fight and make something of themselves. And what we've seen is a new arrival, a new demographic class of about 40% of our residents who come here from other cities who have this SJW mentality, and they keep voting for individuals like Brandon Johnson, whom they think are going to fix all of the social ills while ignoring all of those broken window things that we know we need to address on a daily basis if you want to keep neighborhoods secure, if you want to keep Chicago beautiful.
You're a Democrat, yeah? I think you'll
Born
have
and
to be in
raised.
Chicago. I was there for the Richie Daley years, Richard Daley, and then Richie Daley years. The Democrat machine, Chicago was a Democrat political machine. Everything had to go through the Democrat Party. My first job ever out of high school, I had to go to an alderman and basically put money in his coffer to get a construction job. That's the way Chicago worked. It continues to this day. But when you're talking about the safety of the people in Chicago, there are two areas, the southern and the western suburbs, that are just horrendous with crime. Should Trump bring in the National Guard to at least temporarily clean up those neighborhoods?
You know, no one should have to live with open air drug markets. And we see that a lot on the West Side. No one should have to live with, drug dealers standing on the corners, now fighting with Venezuelan migrants on the South Side. Absolutely, Trump should be able to come in and help the city of Chicago alleviate some of the pressures of public safety that our police officers are facing as they fight every single day to try and make our neighborhoods safe. You know, we do not need police officers protecting the Bean, protecting Buckingham Fountain, protecting the Mag Mile, when they could be in the neighborhoods answering the thousands of 911 calls that go unanswered every single day. But yet Governor Pritzker, Brandon Johnson say no. They say we're doing just fine. Our numbers are low enough. We're happy with where they are. So they're basically signaling to all of Chicago that there's an acceptable limit of carnage that the Democratic political elite is willing to accept on the streets of the city of Chicago. I'm not one of those individuals. I had a young man shot in the back of his head walking home through an alley this weekend. I had two kids that were gunned down by a Venezuelan migrant that, as the reports say, stalked them coming home from high school. There are real issues that we have to address. And if we save one life, if we prevent one more victim, why wouldn't we do that? Why wouldn't we want that? And it really begs the question now more than ever, who is the Democratic Party's elite serving when they say no to President Trump and the help he's willing to offer?
So just to clarify, the question was, are you okay with, you ran for mayor, or you ran for a while, you dropped out, but you would be a logical representative. But you're a Democrat, you get that Democrat vote, but you're also one of the rare instances of a kind of a centrist or moderate Democrat, especially in the city of Chicago. You might get a lot of votes. Would you, as Mayor Lopez, allow Trump to come in with National Guard, at least on a temporary basis, and do his magic on the southern and western suburbs of Chicago?
If I were in that role as mayor, yes, I would. But I also think that if I were in that role as mayor, we would not have been in this predicament where we have crime so rampant, because I would have supported my police officers. I would have demanded that judges stop the revolving door of justice in Cook County, which oftentimes sees criminals out on the streets within hours of being arrested. And I would have elevated the voice of the victim over the criminal. And I think that's the most important part of all of this discussion here, is that no one in the Democratic Party wants to talk about the victims. They're always talking about police brutality or over policing or X, Y, Z in investment, but they never talk about the victims of the violence in our streets. And I think that's the lost voice that needs to be elevated, especially in a city where you have 5,000 shooting victims every year, where you'll have 600 at least murder victims every year, not to mention all of the other crimes that go on underreported and unaccounted for in the city of Chicago.
Are the western and southern suburbs of Chicago, are they no-go zones for cops? Because here's what happens in certain big cities, Democrat cities, where the mayor's office doesn't support the PD, the police department. Cops don't want to go into these areas because they put their lives in their lives are at risk every time they walk into these places because they're a target. And then if they aggressively defend themselves or put down a criminal, sometimes the criminals will claim that they were brutalized or beaten or something illegal happened to them. And the mayor's office just doesn't stand up for the police departments. New York, for example, famously, Bill de Blasio went to a police funeral and the whole police force turned their back on the mayor.
Yep.
What's the relation? Will cops go into these suburbs? And more importantly, does Johnson's office support the police being aggressive when we're in areas where crime is high?
Well, on the south and west sides of the city of Chicago, we do have our officers who are doing their best, but they have been videoed time and time again being outnumbered, outflanked by criminals and those who support criminals. You don't necessarily have to be a gangbanger or a drug dealer, but you could be on the corner and then all of a sudden a flash mob erupts around an officer and their partner while they're trying to make an arrest. And now they are fending for themselves, trying to protect themselves in a very dangerous and hostile situation. That is real. And when you have mayors like Johnson and formerly like Lori Lightfoot, who would immediately throw any officer under the bus twice if they could, and when there's an altercation between an officer and a resident, even with the officer being 100% in the right, it makes it very hard for our police officers to feel as though anyone has their back. There's a handful of elected officials like myself who stand in support and solidarity when our officers do things well and correctly and constitutionally, as we should. Overwhelmingly,
the rare and likable moderate Democrat, especially in the city as hard blue as Chicago is. I wish you luck. I one final question, very quickly: Cubs or White Sox?
White Sox, of course.
Wow.
Got to support the South Side where I'm from.
Wow. I don't know. Cubs. I'm teasing. You're a great guy. You go with both. How's this? Bears on Monday night. How's that? That work for you?
Well, I'm never going to root for the Packers. So
there you go. There you go. Raymond Lopez, Alderman Raymond Lopez. Maybe someday we'll be calling you Mr. Mayor and would love to get you back.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Raymond. All right, folks, so you're stressed about back taxes. Maybe you missed that April 15th deadline. Your books are cooked, a mess. Don't wait. The IRS is cracking down. Penalties add up fast, 5% per month. Yep, that's right. I said per month. Up to 25% if you just fail to file. But there's help. Tax Network USA, they're great folks. They do a lot of work. They can help take the burden off your shoulders, stop that spiral before it gets worse. They've helped literally thousands of Americans, whether you're an employee, a small business owner maybe, or maybe just haven't filed in years. Your book's a mess, so what? They don't care, no problem. They've seen it all. They know exactly how to clean it up. With direct access to powerful IRS programs and expert negotiators on your side, Tax Network USA knows how to win. You'll get a free consultation, and if you qualify, they may be able to eliminate or reduce what you owe, or maybe even completely eliminate it. Think about that for a second. More importantly, they'll help you protect you from wage garnishments or bank levies. So don't wait for the next IRS letter. Call 800-905-8000, 800-905-8000, or visit tnusa.com/RAV to talk to a real expert at Tax Network USA. Take the pressure off. Let Tax Network USA handle your tax issues. They're really, really good at this, folks. They've been doing it a really long time. All righty, how about this? I've been working on something extremely diligently, hard, time-consuming, behind the scenes. Another little taste of it. It's coming soon, September 16th. Watch.
The fire doesn't care who you are. It tests you. It breaks most men. But if you rise through it, you'll find the edge. The Edge, a no-politics zone built for risk and resilience. No politics, only pressure.